my sound preferences are. I like bass. And if it can have quantity and quality, yeah, I'm rocking it. Especially mid bass. I like the slam over the sub bass rumble. I like my mids super clean. Not a big fan of overly colored, overly thick, overly warm mids. Not a big fan of that. And highs that are very sweet and seem to be able to keep up without ever being overbearing or in your face. So
I'm stepping away, yeah. Just like I am dreaming, walking around in this love haze. I wanna stay in this feeling, but let me know that I am safe here in your arms. I wanna stay. I'm slipping away, oh. So don't let me go now. Your love is exceptional. It fills me up. It's out of control, but baby, I love the rush. It overflows. It's out of control. Your love is exceptional. It fills me up. It's out of control, baby, I love the rush. It overflows. It's out of control, I'm in love. I'm in love, deep in love with you, baby, yeah. 'Cause your love is exceptional. Ooh. It's out of control, It's out of control, but I love the rush, yeah. Oh, it overflows. Ooh, your love is exceptional. It fills me up. It's out of control, but baby, I love the rush. It overflows. It's out of control. It's exceptional. It fills me up. It's out of control. Baby, I love the rush. Come on, yeah. Out of control, I'm in love. It's been 3 months since we talked. Feel like you're on a roll, yeah. Me, myself, and I just keep on stumbling around. You get someone else who is loving you. And oh, there it goes. Panic, I'm an addict, feel that rage inside. And oh, he don't even know. Babe, how can you be so blind? 'Cause I can love you better than no one else. And I can hold you tighter than she can.
hello, welcome back. In today's video is going to be a little bit longer one, and like always, I will timestamp it. Today's video is on another digital audio player, the Shanling M5 Ultra. Now, I picked this thing up at the same time as I bought the KAYIN N3 Ultra, and I did that review, and let's talk about this one. So I'm changing up my format, the way I do DAP reviews, to get a bit better, a bit more structured. And let's talk about the Shanling M5 Ultra. $589, comes in black. It comes in this kind of matte silver. The back has a kind of glossy carbon fiber look, which is beautiful. Couple permanently embedded high-res certifications, high-res audio and high-res wireless audio, and we'll get into that in a bit. This is, in Shanling's words, a return to Shanling's M-Touch operating system. Designed for users demanding the best sound quality without all the complexities and issues of Android-based systems. So this is a non-Android based touch. Touch. This is a non-Android based operating system. And the whole software is run by Shanling's own software. And we'll get into user experience in a bit. But I will go right now and say, well, first of all, to Shanling, thank you for providing this unit with a discount for me so I could pick it up. Much appreciated there. Gonna give you a 2 thumbs up. As one of the best user experiences I have ever had the pleasure of using on a digital audio player. Really, really well done. I think it's STANDOUT. Now in this video, I'm going to go break it down into hardware. The buttons and the physical layouts, the software side, and user interface. Then I'm going to get into its sound signature, and then I'm going to do a comparison to 3 different audio players. So I do have a Shanling M8, I have the KAYIN N3 Ultra, and I have the KANN ASTELL&KERN KANN Max here. So I'm going to do a comparison to those 3, and the reason I'm doing so is to give you a frame of reference. So I know the sound signatures of these 3 other players very well, so that's how I came to my conclusions about how this player sounds, and give you a little bit of intro something. Give you a little insight into how they compare to maybe some other players on the market if you were looking at picking one up. Now, let's jump straight into the hardware. So this is Shanling's new design language with bolder, angular lines. And it's a departure from the kind of smooth, roundy stuff that, like the M8, M9 Plus, all of the other previous Shanlings. And I like it. The machined aluminum frame feels very solid in your hand. And this is without even the case. It lets you get a nice grip. Right now, if you buy this player, it comes with a provided full leather, either black or brown, full coverage case. The case itself actually folds in on itself, and the nice thing about this one is it has the cutouts for everything, including the SD card as well, and it covers the top and bottom, which is nice. A lot of cases don't do that, so I like the fact that you can get a good grip on it. Just talking about this inside its case, the way they did the cutouts for the controls also, and the way the player is actually shaped and designed, gives you really good protection, and still has really easy to operate controls. So thought that was pretty awesome. The 3.5 and 4.4 are mounted at the top of the player. And I really like that choice, especially for those who like to send signal out to an outboard amp and bypassing the internal amp of the player and just using this as a DAP and transport. So really like those. And for a pocketable device, I can see the appeal for others of having the line outs at the bottom, reversed of what this one is, and having the scroll wheel still down in your pocket to have easy access. I get that as well. So that might be a consideration for some, whether you'd want to pick this up or not. But personally, I like the outputs at the top. On the bottom has your USB-C centered, which I find is nice. It helps to find to plug it in when it's dark. I mean, it's a little thing, I understand, but that's one of the things I noticed about the KAYIN N3 Ultra is it was, you know, you got to fumble around to find it in the dark. It sounded dirty again. I love these videos. So micro SD card. Did you see that? Did you see a little cover on there? Right? My 3 times the price KANN Max doesn't have that. Just saying. It's a nice touch. Now let's talk about that illuminated power wheel and volume wheel. This new design language that Shanling did is, in my opinion, standout, right? One of the things I really loved about the KANN Max is, well, it's pretty chonky, but I really liked the way they had the volume wheel that was easy to operate, and you use this operation of the back of the wheel with your thumb, where I find this one is nicely designed where it's more, it's a nicer user experience when you're just scrolling with the top of your thumb like this versus putting it at the back. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it did to me. So let's talk about that illuminated volume wheel here for a second, and on-off button. It does multi-functions. I'm a sucker for volume wheels. I really am, over push buttons. I feel it adds not only a measure of kind of tactility, easy to use access for faster volume changes. It also feels more natural to use and adds a kind of premium feel to the player that I find buttons don't do for me. So that's my view on volume wheels and kind of why I gravitated immediately to this design. Now, with that angle, I'm going to talk about that angular shape for a second. So on the one side of the player where the volume wheel is, it is sloped this way. So you can actually get your thumb right on the edge and it's easy to control. And it's sloped that way and back, so the bottom of it wouldn't be sticking out too much where it could get banged and damaged or accidentally controlled, say it was in your pocket. So I thought that was a really smart way of integrating this design language and incorporating some things that really make sense. And on the other side here, so it's also angled the opposite way. So those 3 buttons that are on the side, I'm just going to happen to show you the KANN Max. They're really close together. This is really nicely spaced out. And the way, because it again slopes a little bit this way and then that way, the top of the buttons stick kind of flush to the angle drop off, but the bottoms actually stick out quite far and they're very, very solid. Well done again. Really like that about this thing here. One thing I'd like to mention about going back to that volume wheel for a second is you have 2 options. You have orange and blue, and that's customizable, and we'll get into the software. But I'd love to see it as, if it could be done, changing it to RGB, full RGB, because right now it does red, orange, and blue. Red for charging, orange or blue, your choice for always on illuminated. And right now that doesn't have a dimmer control, and I'm hoping that's going to be added in the future. But I'd love to see that light back there, and it should be able to change RGB and show you different colors with different sampling rates. And that's one of the features that I did like, again, about the KANN Max, is that does that, right? So just saying, Shanling, you might want to, I'm pretty sure you're working on it already. I think Shanling nailed the whole layout of this player. 100%. So not only was the design language changed from the rounder design, everything was placed in a way that it actually made sense to operate. And I don't like change for the fact of change, but I like change for the better. And they nailed it on this player. So let's talk about that gorgeous screen here for a second. Let me go back and I'll show you. Well, it's stunning. It really is. And there we go. It's bright, and in comparison to the other players that I have, the colors pop quite nicely. Now, it's a screen just to show you what's playing back, but it's a nice touch. And not only is it gorgeous, but it's also very, very responsive. And that also plays a big part into the user experience, which I'll get into further into this review. When I was reviewing the Hibby 4 recently, the R4, and had all the DAPs kind of lined up side by side, it was easy to see why you would pay more for this particular DAP over the solid feel of this player's, the controls, the layout, all the other things, like the screen quality. So, like I said, it's vibrant, it's bright, has enough brightness to, which was, I find, really nice to use it outside. And during my evaluation process, I required some vitamin D out in the sun, and was quite happily surprised by how nice it was to see, how easy it was to see still in bright sunlight, which I thought was a standout feature as well. Inside the M5 Ultra now. So this is incorporating the Egenic X2000 operating platform, and with Shanling's experience with their top-of-the-line DAC amp, the H7, and building around some of the things that made that special, they incorporated the Texas Instruments TPA 6120A2 op amps. This makes the M5 Ultra one of the most powerful DAPs that they make, and it doesn't come up shy from their top-end M9 Plus with 25 milliwatts more power, so not a lot. This thing in 4.4, and I'll get into that, will output over 1100 milliwatts of power into balance, 4.4 at 32 ohms. That's pretty impressive. Sounds more powerful than that, though, actually. Let's talk about those impressive power specs. In single-ended, you can get up to 315 milliwatts of power at 32 ohms. Channel separation is 75 decibels. The total harmonic distortion plus noise is less than 0.0009%. Signal-to-noise ratio is greater than 121 decibels, and the output impedance is 4.7 ohms. Balanced 4.4 output up to an impressive 1100 milliwatts at 32 ohms. The total harmonic distortion plus noise is now 0.0007%. Channel separation goes up from 75 to 110 decibels. Signal-to-noise ratio goes from 121 on 3.3 or 3.5 single-ended to 124. And the output impedance now goes to 6.6 ohms. This will play a part into if you had some IMs or some gear that had extremely low load impedances on the headphones or IMs. It will change the coloration and the sound, so just take note of that. Though I found everything I listened to, everything I owned, to sound great and no issues whatsoever. So those are some impressive numbers, to say the least, in a player this compact and at this price point. Okay. to talk about its guts, its internals. This is sporting some pretty impressive internals. The Panasonic tantalum and elna-ceramic capacitors are used, and these are very high quality components. It just did prove that Shanling did not cheap out on the build or the internals, and are indeed serious about building a high quality and great sounding DAP. The M5 Ultra also borrowed and improved upon the fabulous IV conversion stage from its flagship player, the M9 Plus, for a very clean presentation, and yes, it does that. Shanling didn't stop there though. High precision resistors are used throughout with very low 0.01% tolerances for improved thermal stability and performance. A low pass filter, the OPA 2211 op amp, assures a ultra low noise playback so you can hear more of the music. And as the Canucks audioholics like to say, it's all about the music. Lastly, I want to mention the USB input is handled by a separate chip, the XMOS XU316 for dedicated USB functions. And where we get into software, I will explain more about that as well. So the hardware is solid. The build and components are exemplary. What about the user experience? What about using this player and the software? Because I can tell you, if you saw my review of the KAYIN N3 Ultra, its fabulous sound is spoiled by a terrible user experience, and it almost ruins the player, because if you don't want to use it on a daily, or it crashes and has all kinds of bugs in it, it's very frustrating, especially for the money that you put out. So I'm very happy the way the Shanling came across and how fun it was to use. Software, user experience. Firstly, I will say that using the M5 Ultra is a refreshing pleasure to use. I love the simpler user interface. The large, well-spaced 6 icons per page all give the menu a very clean and uncluttered appearance. And the larger icons are welcome to older eyes and fat fingers. The menu can be customized easily for your preferred order, and placing the features you find the use the most, or hide the ones that you don't. Let me show you that. Okay, so when I say the main menu can be customized, let me show you what I mean. There's 6 icons. They're big, nice icons. The labels are, not a strange font, nice font, easy to use. I have customized mine. When you start it up, there'll be 3 different screens that you scroll through. And like I said, this screen is super responsive. It's gorgeous. I've organized mine where it says artist, album, my favorites, all songs, playlist, and title. Next screen over says library update, playback settings, system settings, folder, genre, and frequent. And so those are the 6 things that I use most. If we keep scrolling over to your right, now you can see a list here. Now, how you customize this menu is you would simply check off everything, and remember that each screen has 6 icons. So the first things that I wanted to do from the top going down: artist, album, my favorites, all songs, playlist, and title. That's what you saw on my first screen. Second screen was library update, playback settings, system settings, folder, and genres. Stop that. And What I don't have checked is recent and recently added, because I don't find I use those, so I didn't put those in the menu. OK reset is what it says on the bottom, though you can just swipe over and it'll clear that screen. On the bottom of the main menu, there is your name of your song and the little icon of what you're playing. You can simply click on that and then it will pull up to your song that you're playing. Love this little, oh, that's one of my favorite songs there. It'll automatically add to my favorite playlist. And again, if I wanted to see that, I go to my favorites and there they are. So beautifully well done. Did you see that search function? Yes, I absolutely love it. One of the things that drives me absolutely bonkers is that on the KAYIN N3 Ultra, it has no search function. None whatsoever. So if you want to find something, you have to go into a specific folder or album and then find it. It's very cumbersome. This is so easy and works very, very well. So let me show you some other notable features I found very useful and I appreciated in my daily use of this player, and it is as follows. But firstly, I would like to shout out again how wonderful that screen is. Not only is it gorgeous to look at, but also, we'll get into that in a second. The pre-installed screensaver doesn't affect any of the responsiveness of the screen, which I also found pretty fantastic. The double tap to wake works every single time. No problems whatsoever. So anytime I wanted to do a command or enter anything, again, I didn't have to tap twice. It was just super pleasure to use as well. So speaking of the tap twice, of course it has that function on here as you expected with any high quality player. And that can be accessed as we go into later on about some of the other features as well. The double tap screen is very useful, especially if you have the hardware buttons locked as well. And pushing the volume wheel also does this function. And so let's jump into some of those features. If we go into system settings, you can set your language, wireless settings, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and SyncLink, and we'll get into that in a bit. That's the companion app to control this player from another device, and it works really, really well. Kind of like the Hibi control, it does the same kind of features as well. So one thing that I found was interesting is that you can't choose Wi-Fi and Bluetooth to be on simultaneously. It's one or the other. And that makes a difference when you're doing SyncLink as well. So you can either choose SyncLink to be off, Bluetooth, or Wi-Fi. And that will correspond to the settings when you set it up from, say, your phone. You want to find it either wirelessly or Bluetooth. Network services, self-explanatory, but here's where you can choose DNLA or AirPlay and Wi-Fi file transfer. So full-featured software. And one thing to note on the Shanling M5 Ultra is the Bluetooth Qualcomm chip that they're using. So when they say on the back that this thing is also certified for high-res audio wireless, that means that this player can also do through this Bluetooth 5.0 protocol bidirectionally. It can do the LDAC, it can do aptX HD, aptX, ACC, AirPlay, everything, all the latest CODECS. Now we'll go into let's go back to here. Display settings shows you brightness, but again you can control that from the pull down as well, right there, super easy. Don't know if you need it twice, but there you go. Screen off time. When you set it to lyrics mode, you'll see a little thing here. The lyrics interface screen maintains is always the brightest. So that's a cool little feature I haven't seen before. The screen off time. So when you're touching something, say I was playing this and I want it to screen off time, I can set it for 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 30 minutes. Again, nice little touch. Lock screen. If you want that, I guess if you maybe put it in your pocket and you want to, yeah, I'm not sure why you'd use it, but there you go. Here's where you can change the atmospheric lamp to orange or blue. There we go. Easy change. I'd love to again see this in RGB. Idle screen. So your sleep timer on off and set your time. Now, this feature I really do enjoy as well. So you can either set it to auto standby and or auto shutdown, which is my preference. Do you want it to auto shut down after not, say, hitting pause and not using the player? 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes. And I'm going to choose 10 minutes. The battery on this unit is fabulous. So again, if it's not like we have to constantly worry about battery drain on this unit as well. So in vehicle mode, you can choose to turn that on. Double tap to screen is where you're choosing that. The button locks. So now you can also choose to do volume only, lock buttons only, or both. I choose to turn that off. And then your system update, you can do it, of course, because it has Wi-Fi over the air. Awesome, right? Versus having to sideload or something like that. So network update, again, it will automatically find if there's something, if you're connected to Wi-Fi, and away you go. Now let's talk about the pull down. So that pull down is your quick access menus, right? If you've seen that kind of from like Android, borrowed that as well. So Wi-Fi on off, Bluetooth on off, and you can see Wi-Fi is turned on. Do you want to turn off Wi-Fi for using? This might be a bug, but right now as it is, you can only use one or the other. And I'm actually not sure why that is. Button lock is there, so if you have it set to, say you wanted to stop your scroll wheel from, if it's in your pocket, again, super easy to do. There's your gain controls. Low, medium, high gain. USB storage. Okay, so that's controlled by a different chip. Now, if you have this thing connected to your computer, and what happens automatically, and I love this, is that if you have that turned, say it's now turned to USB storage, and I plug in my computer, it will automatically on my computer pull up the drive. It shows it as a USB drive. Boom, there it is. Way it comes up, USB connected. And now you can sideload all of your music, audiobooks, whatever you want onto the player itself. Now, I should turn that off. So you also saw what happens too is when I disconnect, it will say scanning. So it auto scans. You can set that auto update to your library. So if you've loaded now music on it, which it assumes you did because you connected it to computer and you were going to sideload some load onto the memory card onto some music, it's a nice little feature that it automatically updates your library. So I thought that was pretty cool. More about the pull down. So if you hit that, it's now USB DAC or USB audio. So 3 different separate functions for the USB output. So the next one over, phone out or line out. So your line out sets maximum volume continue. Nice little confirmation screen here. And the output is set to maximum volume. That's why it's giving you this warning. And it's set to also your gain control. So if you have low, medium, or high gain, the output through the low output bypassing the amplifier will set that output towards your gain setting. So let's cancel that. Playback settings, again, another really easy pull down, fast to get to. Your digital filters. We'll talk about more about that into sound, but this is the second only player or source I've ever used that these digital filters actually made an audible difference. It really did. Most times I gloss over, I skip over these functions on my Shanling M8, on my ASTELL&KERN Con Max, and on the KAYIN N3 Ultra. They all really don't do a damn thing. I can't hear anything. Switching back and forth, I just can't hear any difference switching filters. Whereas the M5 Ultra, I can hear a noticeable difference. And this is why I kind of messed up when I did my review of the Shanling ME600s, where I said it wasn't a good pairing between the two. Well, I didn't have enough time on this player to actually know that those filters, because I didn't I didn't play around with the filters, because normally it doesn't make a sense for me, because they don't change anything. And then the gain, and I'll go more into sound, but let's just say I'll take it back, and I'll say, because these ones had a nice warm, they sound fantastic on this player. That's as far as I'll go on that one. They really do. EQ function, no PEQ on here, more of a graphic EQ if you're into that kind of stuff. I wish it did have a PEQ. Shanling, please add. It would be on the top of my wish list. Play mode, list play, track, repeat, shuffle, repeat all. Maximum volume. What a great feature. So I know that on medium gain and most of the IMs that I listen to, 50 would be really loud. So I don't want to damage any of my gears. So I set volume, maximum volume output to 50, and I haven't really gone past that yet. Default volume. So it starts off at volume 30. Again, what a great handy little feature. And you can set that to really low, or again, if you know you blast all of your music all of the time, you can set that to as well, DSD output mode, D2P, DOP, and native. So that has to do with your processing of your DSD files. USB audio output, volume variable, volume fixed. Hey, wait a second. Didn't I just say that? Oh, yes. I'm not talking about line out. I'm talking here USB audio out. That's kind of cool. Oops, what did I just have it as? I think I'd want it as, variable, absolutely. Memory playback, off track location. Gapless on off. Replay gain, you can choose to be off or audio track as I do, or album. Channel balance. So if you have, I was listening to an IM that has a slight little channel imbalance. I set it, and this works tickety-boo as well. So if you got something that has a little bit of channel imbalance, you can easily set that as well. Folder skip function on-off. Boom. You've now done those settings completely. Now, if we get into the play settings, there is 3 little dots up here. Well, there's 3 little dots up there, and those are scrolling over lyrics and your information about the track. These 3 little dots do some really cool stuff. A/B repeat. If you were an audiobook user, here's a feature I have yet to see on any other player or my DAPs. Speed control for audio playback can be set to 1 times, which is normal, right? 1.25 times, 1.5, and 2 times. So somebody said for audiobooks, they like to set the playback speed a little faster. And this only works for files below 48 kilohertz sampling rate, just so you know. But that is a really neat little feature. I actually accidentally was playing with it, and I hit it on 1.5 times songs, and I had some doors come up from 1964. And if you ever listen to any 60 songs, they're pretty trippy as they are already. Putting at 1.5 times is very, very trippy, just saying. So, add to playlist. Again. Oh, that's because I wasn't doing something here. Download cover lyrics as well, so you're connected to Wi-Fi. It will also then, I don't know what database it chooses, but as you can see, it found the right album cover as well. I don't know what they use as their database, but it works pretty darn well, I will tell you that. And here's a lovely feature that I really a fan of: delete song. Okay, I typically download my music on DSD, DSF files, ISO, and the whole album. And when I'm just shuffling playing all my music, I come across a song that just irks me from an artist. Well, I can just delete that song super simple without going into menu after menu after menu to find it. The CAYIN, oh my God, to actually find and delete that song is a major chore. This is super simple. Also, delete source file option, cancel, okay. I hit cancel, and away you go. So that is the little pull down menu from when you're in playback screen. If you're on TIDAL, that changes a little bit. Now, one of the things that I noticed is that now this menu screen is blue, and I wish that Shanling would incorporate, on my wish list is to have maybe the main menu also being customizable, where you can change maybe the color of those icons as well. So that would be nice. But say we'll go back to TIDAL, now it's blue, new music, top music, title rising, genre, and my collection. So your playlist, your albums, your tracks, your artists that you've all liked on TIDAL as well. So simple to use there as well. To talk about that battery in a sec, the auto display, the auto standby, the auto shut off, all those things give you many options for battery management. But speaking of that big 6,000 milliamp battery inside of this, I could get about 2 to 3 3-hour sessions before I felt the need to recharge, and that corresponds to the rated specs of 11 hours on single-ended and 9 hours on balance. And yes, it did that for me, maybe even more. So, okay, one thing I forgot to show you is if we go to TIDAL and you're playing a song, okay, if I hit those 3 buttons now, it comes up with normal, high, hi-fi, and master, and that's the download quality on TIDAL. So Say you didn't want to use too much data, you can change that sampling rate, or if you were in a poor coverage area and you didn't want any skips, or you could also then downgrade the quality as well. But right there you go. Part of my wish list as well for the TIDAL is that the only thing you can't do right now, this is not the full function, full featured Android version of TIDAL, but all the basics are there. On my wish list would be you can add a track to favorites, so you can add a track to your favorites on TIDAL right there, but you can't yet add that song to a TIDAL playlist. I hope that comes in the future. That would be nice to see as well. So enough about the hardware and the software. I think I've given you a pretty good rundown of what you can expect, and this Edict player, this M-Touch player software is a pleasure to use. Simple, intuitive, fast, responsive. That's all you can ask for, right? Let's talk about sound. In my journey with this, and from the forums, it was discovered that it actually has two different unique sound signatures from this player. And I'll start off with when this unit is in low gain. Okay, so, and I typically don't bump it out of low gain because this player is really powerful, and it had way enough juice on low gain to drive anything. In fact, I didn't really get past 60, 65 on low gain to drive anything. So on low gain, and the filters set to slow roll off. So playback settings, digital filter, slow roll off. This is the most warm sounding version of this player. With these settings, this is the warmest this player will sound. It nicely smooths over kind of some of my edgier IMs, and say my Hi-Fiman 400i planar headphones, which just smooths out the edges. Presents a slightly analog, warmer tonality. The overall playback sounds a bit more mid-centric, and maybe pairing with brighter gear, it makes them more listenable, more enjoyable with those settings. Now, switch this bad boy over to medium gain, and something unique happens, and it must have to do because that gain stage is in the preamp stage. The sound changes, the bass changes. It gets much punchier. The overall characteristics of the M5 Ultra becomes livelier and more balanced. So gone is that kind of mid-centricness, and now the bass and the high end perk up, and it balances off. I would say less colored at this point. Switching now to the fast roll-off filter, you would think by the super clean mids, the M5 Ultra is not adding much, if at any at all, colorization to the music. It wasn't until you were listening to some gear, example for you, the Elysian Acoustic Labs Pilgrim IM. This is where I really noticed it, and then switching sources. There you could tell the M5 Ultra was adding in some special sauce to the mids, and a fullness, a completeness, actually, that was missing on some leaner, drier sources, like the KAYIN N3 Ultra here. Then you realize just really how special the M5 Ultra is, and what it can do with the right pairings. The digital filters and the gain controls both change the sound signature of this player. Do you want a warmer, smoother, or more resolving, less colored playback? Your choice. And with the settings that I just mentioned, it can be done. The M5 Ultra is really no slouch when it comes to micro details, nor picking up the subtle nuances in the music. It's a really standout player for that. Bass is full, authoritative, and always in control. Mids are clean and they're musical. Treble is well controlled and lively. That's how I heard the M5 Ultra. My favorite settings, and it really depends on the gear, was with the medium gain and the digital filter set to sharp roll-off. I really enjoyed the way this player sounds. Adds maybe a little coloration into the mid-range. Some other standout features that I thought worth noting. The form factor. Again, I really like the shape of this player and how well it fits in your hand and where everything is placed. The angle of the buttons and how tactile they feel. Even the little corrugated edges on the volume wheel were a nice touch. The Edict Companion Player app. It's a function that I actually use. So here's the scenario. This thing is have my IEMs plugged into the player itself. The player is sitting beside me, and I'm playing music. And I have my phone paired to this. So I'm surfing on my phone, I'm writing a review, what have you, and a song comes on and I don't like it, or I want to skip, or I want to change the volume control. All that can be simply done by the app mirroring the player itself. And even the volume control, when you're in the app on your other device, if it mirrors the volume control level on your player, so it'll say 33, and on your player it'll be 33. So, and if once you get to know your player, that was a nice little touch. Again, Shanling thought a lot about not just the player, the buttons, where everything goes, but also that user experience on the player and then mirrored to another device. So well done, Shanling. I would be remiss in my review not mentioning the use of the flagship DAC chip from AKM, the AK4499EX DOS, which means there's two of them, and the AK4191 Delta Sigma modulator controller chip. It was such a great choice for this DAP to get the warmth of the chip and the ability to get a very detailed and clean sounding player. They could have went to a cheaper chip, saved some money, but they didn't. They didn't skimp out there at all. And I know from other sources that that particular DAC chip is outrageously expensive. So I applaud Shanling, and I wanted to make sure that that was pointed out. Lastly, the M5 Ultra running the Igenik X2000 platform makes the Shanling a real pleasure to use, with its snappy responsiveness and its smooth operation. I've mentioned it a few times, but it's definitely worth mentioning again how nice it is to use this player. Let's do some comparisons, say versus the another Shanling, this time the M8 that I have. I'm trying to get it out of its case here, which isn't easy. Actually, I wanted to show you that. So again, when I mentioned earlier about the case being full coverage, you can see the top of the M8 case, and this is another Shanling case as well, but it leaves the top exposed. And obviously that plays a little bit because I've got some wear and tear on the top of the player, where I don't think that's going to happen with the M5 Ultra and that specific leather case. So this is big. Runs Android, and it also has its own player, so you can turn off the Android portion and you just want to use it as Shanling's feature as well. So this software is very similar in its design layout, except for this newer version of the software is much more focused and refined as well. Sound-wise, though, the M8 plays slightly warmer than the N5 Ultra. N5? The M8 plays just slightly warmer than the M5 Ultra, with the new Shanling sounding more mid-forward, and the bass of the M5 Ultra coming across as a tad punchier over the M8. Overall, the two players sound very similar in tonality and are very close in micro details when the M5 Ultra is set to low gain and slow roll-off filter. Okay. I can't hear a change again in the sound signature of either the gain or the digital filters on the M8. The M5 Ultra is really as I mentioned earlier, the second. Switching the gain to medium, sharp roll-off filter. Now the two players have totally different characters, and they've differentiated themselves. Now the M5 Ultra sounds more dynamic. It sounds livelier than the M8. Mids are cleaner, bass is punchier, and in comparison, the M8 sounds definitely warmer and more laid back. So out of the two, this is the warmer, gooier, smoother player. And I heard the M9 Plus is like that as well. So different sound characteristics. This still has a warm side to it on the low gain and the slow roll-off filter, but switch it over to medium gain and the fast roll-off filter, and you get a much more dynamic, more livelier DAP. It's nice to have both. Now, versus this little guy. This is the KAYIN N3 Ultra. So price-wise, $529 for the case. Case is lovely again. Leaves the top exposed, which I'd be worried about as well. It's going to get some dings on the top. The M5 Ultra, set with slow roll-off and low gain. The KAYIN, set to super slow roll-off and classic tube mode. This is supposed to be their warmest sounding configuration. Both sound warmish, but the M5 Ultra sounds smoother and has a wider stage when it comes to comparing the two. Now, in solid state mode, non-tube mode, the M5 Ultra in medium gain, fast roll-off filter, and the N3 Ultra in solid state mode, short delay, sharp roll-off filter. Here is where the N3 Ultra has faster bass, and the mids are more resolving with the N3 Ultra. The Shanling still has that touch of warmth to it. You switch now the KAYIN to modern tube mode. The N3 Ultra sounds more resolving over the M5, over the Shanling. A lot less warm in comparison and sounds smoother and the KAYIN has tighter bass and cleaner, less colored mids. The screen kicks butt on the Shanling M5U over a lot of the players that I own, and certainly kicks butt on the KAYIN. It's brighter and has better color rendition. Overall, I feel the M5U has the more natural sound, the signature, with its warmer overtones than the N3 Ultra, even with the tubes engaged. The bass was the most notable tonality change between the two players, with a bigger and fuller bottom end, but it's just not as speedy as the KAYIN. So, more musical. Versus the KANN Max. So both the Shanling M8 and the KANN Max are almost 3 times the price of the N5. The ASTELL&KERN KANN Max can certainly not be called a warm-sounding DAP. It is brutally honest. A device that delivers a really clean, holographic playback with a high level of details, sometimes too much. Unlike the M5 Ultra, adds a touch of colorization to the music, I find the KANN adds none. So switching between the two, you can pick up on how nicely the Shanling adds a tinge of warmth. The KANN Max does play with a higher level of resolution and details that makes pairings either a solid yes or no. Whereas the M5 Ultra is more forgiving and could be used as an all-rounder and pair with all gear, keeping in mind that extra thickness that it will add. That's why IAMs like the Elysian Pilgrim sound so good on the M5 Ultra, and because it adds just a bit into the mix to perfectly complement the IM. It's a perfect pairing with the M5 Ultra and that Elysian Pilgrim, where on the KANN Max, it was one of those that was a no. It just didn't work. It just didn't work. In conclusion, what does the Shanling M5 Ultra bring to the table, and is it worth your consideration? So, I think so. A lot of positive attributes are in this player, and especially for the money. Firstly, the sound is exceptional, competing with other players 2-3 times the cost. It's clean, it's powerful, it's musical, are some of the great descriptors I would use for the Shanling M5 Ultra. It's exceptionally well built. The compact form factor, the ergonomics, the shape, it fits nicely in your hand. It's not too heavy. And the physical buttons are done so very well. The scroll wheel is perfectly sculpted to it's easy to use for your thumb. And the side buttons, those 3 lovely side buttons, one of my favorite features of this DAP, are so perfectly well placed. Even in the case, and I'll throw it back in its case for a second. Trying to get that little folder under there. Even with the case, again, the way the player is shaped, you can easily hit that scroll wheel. And again, same thing with those 3 buttons. The cutouts are big enough, and the buttons are protruding far enough to easily operate it. Yet the case and the way that the player is, you don't see anything else sticking out. You notice that? So nothing's really protruding, so everything's well protected, yet the buttons are super big and tactile, and the same as that volume wheel. I love the feel and the use of this player. Back this up with a user interface that is standout. The layout is not only intuitive, again, but it's just also a real pleasure to use. A complete package, really. Great sound, unique style, powerful, and a great all-rounder for a daily carry. I think it's worth your consideration. This is a Tone Deaf Monk. Thanks for watching.